Welcome to Resource PNG. We begin this episode with a look at work being done to formulate Papua New Guinea's national energy policy. The development of this policy is being driven by two key government departments, public enterprise and state investments, as well as petroleum and energy. Recently, a consultative workshop was held in Port Moresby to gauge the views of all stakeholders. Since independence, Papua New Guinea has been without an energy policy. This despite the country being blessed with an abundance of energy sources, which many other countries can only dream of having. But why has it taken 40 years to develop a national energy policy? This, among other issues, was raised recently during a consultation of all stakeholders within the energy sector. The policy is being spearheaded by the Department of Public Enterprise and State Investments, together with the Department of Petroleum and Energy. Public Enterprise Minister Ben Micah has been at the forefront in pushing for the completion of this energy policy, which he says is one way of easing the pressure on energy generation, pressure that has for many years been on state-owned entity PNG Power. According to Secretary of Department of Public Enterprise, Dr. Clement Waine, just by having a national energy policy in place, PNG is already setting a benchmark for other countries to follow. Although the policy is predominantly homegrown, PNG has also looked to its regional neighbour, New Zealand, to gain a better insight on how to involve landowners as part of energy development.
The Maori concept basically allows the Maori, the landowners, to participate as equity partners in resource projects, in geothermals, in dairy products, in hydro projects, hydropower projects, and so on, and in vineyards and different agricultural projects. So that has created a lot of wealth for the Maoris. So we have started this in a tour that was led by Minister Ben Micah and team from PNG, and guided by his counterpart in New Zealand. That was in June of last year. Now, based upon our educational tour, we decided to adopt that model because that allows direct equity participation by the Maoris, the landowners, in any resource projects. The important thing about the Maoris is that they have a very good court system, legislations, and a Resource Management Act, which governs the use of and the utilization or harnessing of the natural resources. We have segmented laws that govern specific sectors, hydrocarbon sector separately from minerals and so on, and water rights, usage of water, and all these things are all segmented. Whereas in New Zealand, it's one structured Resource Management Act. However, the important thing is that the Maoris are equity partners in the resource project by pledging their land. The landowners, instead of becoming rate seekers or being displaced from their own land and then compensated for this displacement and dislocation, and in some cases, for instance, when Yonki Dam inundated the customary land, the people were displaced, and they are still being displaced now. So what we would like to propose in the new legislation or in the new policy is that they should be brought on board in any resource project as equity partners.
The transfer of knowledge is another aspect that will be included within the energy policy, a move that has been welcomed by stakeholders within the energy sector.
We have financial independence and economic independence. We're going towards that. We are in political independence, but knowledge independence, we're still dependent on these people. Time to stop. Every project that goes into this country must have the knowledge transfer as a major component of this project. If it doesn't happen, don't bring it in. I think the professors have raised this on another level, that's training level. We're talking about implementation level, that's another level. And we teach the university people, so knowledge or something like that. So, you must look now, you bring in knowledge transfer with the technology transfer. People, please. Otherwise, we will continue to be dependent on knowledge.
So what does the national energy policy mean for Papua New Guinea?
there is a very good working relationship, level-long department, couple department. And because of that, they've been able to put this document together, which is based on work that's already been done by the Petroleum and Energy Department, I'd say for the last 10 years, and input that has come from the Department of Public Enterprise and State Investments, and also other stakeholders like PNG Power. And today it is very encouraging that big companies like ExxonMobil and Total and General Electric, a big company from the US, and others are also here. But it's also encouraging to see landowners, landowners from the Purari area, landowners from Simbo, are here to find out how they can participate in this very big step into harnessing our energy sources that will engage them, involve them as partners together with the state and the private sector.
You're watching Resource PNG. We'll be back with more right after these messages. You're watching Resource PNG. Mine inspectors play a crucial role within the mining industry in PNG. They are at the front line of ensuring that mining projects carry out their activities without placing the safety of their employees at risk. Recently, the country's mine inspectors went through a training aimed at sharpening their skills. Resource PNG was invited to witness part of their training. In any mining project, safety is paramount. Ask any person who has had the experience of working in a mine and they will tell you. From the early morning briefings to the random checks, a mine's operations can only continue if safety is guaranteed. The Mineral Resources Authority, MRA, has the responsibility of ensuring that all mining projects within Papua New Guinea operate according to regulations set out in the Mining Safety Regulation Act. MRA recently conducted training for its mine inspectors, training aimed specifically at improving their investigation skills.
So this 3-day training is focusing on the investigation of accidents. There is a methodology called ICAM. So 2 trainers have come from Australia, so they will be providing training to my inspectors over 3 days in terms of how to conduct investigations with a view to know how this accident happened, why this accident happened, what could have contributed to the occurrence of that accident, where the lapses are in the safety management system, so that corrective actions could be taken accordingly.
The aim is to make sure that the standards in mining safety and the ethics that the inspectors impart throughout all the work that they do in Papua New Guinea is of a suitable standard. And SIMTARS, being an international trainer which does this in many different countries, has been asked to do this particular work.
The specific approach for the Mines Inspectorate here is, this is a developing group, as Ian has said. The Inspectorate's developing now. We're assisting them with one of many models for predictive risk and incident investigation to help them when they go to the sites.
This particular course is in a very specific form of investigation training called ICAM, and Steve's the expert on that particular aspect. But it's one of a number of techniques that SIMTARS has actually developed for training of the inspectors. We've done previous courses on investigations, on formation of the right legislation, the correct processes that government department needs, things like conflicts of interest for inspectors, ethics, making sure that they have all the tools that are appropriate for a government official in a position of authority, upholding the community contract to make sure that justice is done when there has been a serious accident. So they'll be learning on on the basis of what they've already learned in those areas about how to do very, very thorough, expert investigations to make sure that there can't be a reoccurrence in the future.
And if an incident occurs that they need to address immediately.
Participants at this training have also picked a few lessons which they say will be useful in their roles as inspectors and regulators of mines within PNG.
And for me, it's really sharpening tools. And there's few things, because I used to be a practitioner of this. In coming back, I had some specific questions. And these are questions that are not answerable currently in our industry, either in Australia or either here too, because I also work in Australia as well. It's one of the things that we do most of the times as mines inspectors, we investigate. And this is one of the critical parts. Being an inspector is we should investigate not only at the accidents, but anything that the workforce, or comes to our notice that the workforce brings up, we should investigate. Yes. It's a critical part of our role.
This lead investigator course is quite a new subject for someone to graduate. But yeah, it's more a learning experience for me. I'm learning how to do investigations, conduct the investigation, should there be an incident, and how to do recommendations.
But challenges remain, and according to Chief Inspector of Mines, Mohan Singh, one of the most immediate is legislation. But there are good signs with a review of legislation currently underway.
On the legislative front, in fact, PNG is still living with an outdated legislation. The Mining Safety Act is 1977. The Mine Safety Regulations are 1935. So those legislations are too old and they really cannot serve the modern day requirements. However, we are, through the Department of Mineral Policy, we are in the process of reviewing these legislations now, and some progress has been made, but again the department is still facing certain issues with regard to availability of funds. So hopefully we will recommence this exercise again next year in 2016. But I hope that we will have a new piece of legislation maybe by mid of next year or end of next year. So that is one of the biggest challenges, that we have a outdated piece of legislation for us to enforce.
There is also a need to adequately resource the regulator.
I had to take up this issue with the board of MRA, that unless we get these things corrected at our end, we won't be able to retain people. So I'm happy to say that this proposal was really taken seriously, and remunerations of the inspectors in MRA is now far above the normal employee of MRA. So that helped me a lot to retain these people. And then we undertook this exercise of recruiting these inspectors over the last 2 years, and it was only by end of last year and beginning of this year that more and more inspectors came on board. And today I have 10 inspectors with me. And that's why the next challenge was to provide them the necessary training in their roles. And that is what we have undertaken during this year. The first phase of the training, general training, is done, and the second phase is on, and we will continue with this training even in future.
Given the direction that MRA is taking in upskilling its mine inspectors, there is optimism that regulation of mine safety will improve in the future to ensure the safety of those working within the industry. You're watching Resource PNG. After the break, an update on Kumul Mining and Kumul Petroleum. Welcome back to Resource PNG. During the July session of Parliament, the Kumul Holdings Act was passed. This act now provides for the country's state entities. For the resource sector, 2 new entities will be established, Kumul Mining and Kumul Petroleum. These 2 entities will hold the state's interest in mining, petroleum and energy projects. Papua New Guinea's parliament recently passed the much talked about Kumul structure legislation. This legislation intends to streamline the operations of state-owned entities as well as its interests within the mining, petroleum and energy sector. The Kumul structure basically has 3 components. These are Kumul Trust, responsible for all state-owned entities currently under the Independent Public Business Corporation; Kumul Petroleum, responsible for all petroleum assets including the National Petroleum Company of PNG; and Kumul Mining, responsible for all mining assets including Petroleum. In a recent interview, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill spoke on the Kumul structure and how state-owned entities would operate under this new arrangement.
The Kumul structures have been now established, which is going to have a Kumul Mining, which is going to manage all the mineral interests of the country. That means every mining development in the country where a state will participate, this particular entity will look after it. They are going to take over all the responsibilities that Petroleum has had, and we are going to make sure that the board is very independent and the management is very independent. The second thing is we are establishing the Kumul Petroleum. We must set up Kumul Petroleum that will take over all the petroleum and gas development interests in the country where state again has got interest in. And we are taking over the functions of NPCP, the National Petroleum Company, so that we can consolidate all their assets. We are investing billions and billions of kina on behalf of our people. We must have serious management of these investments that we are making on their behalf. That is why it is important that we have an independent structure that is going to manage this. They are going to report directly to Parliament. So every year they are required to produce an audited annual report to Parliament. Parliament will then debate on it, and of course it will be available for public's consumption.
Now, in terms of the mining, petroleum and energy sector, Kumul Mining and Kumul Petroleum will have a major impact on the extractive industry. And according to Public Enterprise and State Investments Minister Ben Micah, work towards establishing both entities are well on track.
Parliament then me passing finish this law, me play with him this whole speaker law 35, which I believe would be done sometime this week, and then this consolidated agenda belong bungim all kita business interest below government, below area below mining, underneath belong Kumul Minerals Company, all oil and gas interests underneath belong Kumul Petroleum Company. Now all kita narapla business belong government now where stop underneath belong IPBC, also Guinea, na PNG Ports, PNG Power, all sales below Yumi belong BSP, na all sets na all narapla company, and by stop underneath belong Kumul Consolidated Holdings. So we will have 3 holding companies that will drive the state's commercial agenda together with the private sector in the economy of the country. This plan also, Prime Minister is the trustee, as you know. He will appoint a delegate trustee or 3 delegate trustees. I don't know what he's going to do, but there will be 1 or 2 or 3 ministers that will be responsible for these 3 companies and reporting to the Prime Minister.
It is exciting times for Papua New Guinea as the extractive industry looks forward to welcoming these 2 new entities, Kumul Petroleum and Kumul Mining. And this is where we end this episode of Resource PNG. If you want to contribute to this program, get in touch with us via email on resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. To view this edition again, log on to www.mtv.com.pg, where you will find a link to the Resource PNG page. Until the next time, pleasant viewing.